guys, I'm doing a reflection for a couple things that I experienced over my last rotation. Just a couple different events or meetings that I went to. One meeting that I particularly enjoyed was having a chemo teaching meeting. We were taught a little bit about some of the stuff that goes on with chemo. But this particular presentation was done for patients to let them know sort of what goes on with chemo and any other services that we do have at the hospital for patients if they are having issues with their treatment or if they're having issues at home. So any sort of social support works or anything like that. So the good thing for me was just being able to sit in for that chemo teaching and really understand sort of the basics of how most patients will experience their chemo throughout treatment. So being able to sit there with a lot of the patients there as well, listening to their questions and their concerns was really beneficial. I mean, I know basically what chemo is and sort of drugs that they may be using on treatment and which particular patients may have chemo, and we know a little bit about some of the side effects that they have with chemo. But having sort of that sit down with them for them to be able to sort of discuss what sort of side effects they may have and really talk through with the patients how their experience is going to be and how long they're going to be there for and certain things that may occur over their treatment and just allowing patients to know what they're going to be going through as opposed to just leaving them in the dark. And I found that even just having that particular experience for these patients is very beneficial to sort of alleviate them a little bit with some of the anxiety about having chemo and certain things that they may experience with chemo, just allowing them to ask those questions that they need to ask about their particular chemo, and just really allowing patients to know the sort of support systems that the hospital has in place. And I found that, by dietitians coming or social workers coming, has really opened my eyes to see how the hospital itself is there for their patients and how they have different services in place for them. And I knew that there were different services and that the hospital had put in place for patients. But having each of them sort of go through a description as to why they're there and what their skill sets are and certain areas in which they may need or require extra help for these patients, and allowing them to see what sort of other professions we have here and other supports was nice to see. And I thought it was very basic information, but also informative at the same time. Just sort of consolidating some of the stuff that we already knew, but allowing us to see how patients took in that information and what questions they may have asked was beneficial. Another experience that I had got to participate in was a dietitian's consult, which I was very happy about. I got to sit in with a neck patient who may be having some difficulty swallowing or eating in general. So having sat down with the dietitian and to see what sort of options they provide them. Their first day that they talked to them, so they went through basically getting their baseline down, seeing what they eat on average during a day, and what kind of foods they like and what kind of foods they don't like, and being able to sort of tailor some information to them to give them a sort of idea before the problems become evident. So they talked about the meal supplements, so the Boost and Ensure, and then there's another one which was Resource 2.0. So she sort of went through how there's different kinds, different calorie counts for each, and how there's ones that are like snacks and ones that are like meals. Um, and that just depends on the amount of calorie intake that you're looking for. So on average, like a snack's 200 calories, where a meal is 300, 400 calories. And then the Resource 2.0 is actually 500 calories, which I didn't even know existed. But she went through some of that as well with the patients and just saying these are options. They are meal supplements, and we do want you to keep eating regular foods. And I mean, going through that sort of step by step with the patient was really great, just to let them know how many they could take a day, or what they should be taking, what they should be avoiding. So anything like they checked their vitamins or minerals or what they took in during the mornings, and telling them not to take any antioxidants, and going through that process with them, because we want to make sure that our treatment is effective. So by taking antioxidants, we're risking the effectiveness of our treatment. And other things that she sort of went over was just basically his diet and what he ate, and sort of things that, given what he likes to eat, certain high calorie foods, high protein, high calorie foods, and certain things that he could eat if things became difficult for him, and providing him with more information if needed, giving him some pamphlets as well to let him know sort of who he can contact if he needs more, or we can refer him back to the dietitian throughout his treatment. I mean, just having that sort of situation where she goes through step by step what he sort of eats and what things he should avoid. Talking to him about his caffeine intake and how he needs to reduce that. Talking about how he should avoid acidic food, just because that'll irritate his throat. I mean, giving him things like yogurts and other dairy products that he can eat, just because they are a high protein, high calorie food choice. I mean, for her to go through this with the patient and me being able to witness it, got to ask questions of what he, this is what I eat, this is what I've heard I shouldn't eat, and she would either confirm that for him or say, nope, that's something that you can for sure have. But I mean, on the whole, the dietitian answered a lot of their questions, provided them with some samples as well of the meal supplements, which is great, so you can try a couple different ones out and see which ones he likes. And some of the more interesting things was talking about coverage, and I did not know that Ontario government covered any of the meal supplements. They cover some of them, depending on your age and health status. So if you're over 65, you get partial coverage of some of your meal supplements, and depending on your health status and your weight and your disease progression, they may cover your meal supplements in that kind of sense. So with that in question, the patient did have some things to say about that as well. But on the whole, the two experiences that I had there were fantastic. I learned a lot, and I got to witness a lot, and got to see how much information the patients require and how much information is presented to them in such a short amount of time. But overall, great experience.